Hey, welcome to the All-New SportsCage. Oh, geez, Louise, that was loud in the old ears, boys. It's been a while. It feels it's what it's been like 4 days. Can you crank that down a bit, Alan, please? It's 4 Sask Lotteries on this Tuesday. Kellin Enslev's going to be with me. The C's are here. Alan is here, as you heard, and we got a busy show. We were going to do this from Agribition today, and then we're going, okay, we're going to go to Agribition tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. It'll be fun down there. It'll be hopping. And then today we were like, well, should we go to Agribition? No, we're not. We're going to stay here. And I'm glad we did because things started spiraling out of control. And now we got a busy show because in the CFL, Vernon Adams has been traded. He is going to the Calgary Stampeders. We're going to dive into that. We're going to have Arash Madani. If all of you that watch the show and subscribe, really appreciate it, by the way. Arash talked about it back in October 31st. Colson, is that when? Around there? October 31st?
It was right after the Grey Cup when he talked about Vernon Adams.
So he's making it sound like he said this in July. It wasn't.
No, he was talking about a few people back in October as well. But
yeah,
we've got all the receipts for him. Don't worry.
Throw it against the wall. See if it sticks, right? Or in the oven, see if it bakes, whatever it's called. We'll get into VA with Arash. He's in hour 2. But in hour 1 here, it's probably in about 10 minutes' time. All you Edmonton Oilers fans, if you have any questions about your Edmonton Oilers, send them our way on the Capital Ford Lincoln text line. Saskatchewan's #1 Ford retailer, 936-6262. Voice of the Edmonton Oilers on the radio side, Cam Moon, former Saskatoon Blade, Medicine Hat Tiger, Nipawin Hawk, play-by-play guy of the Red Deer Rebels. Awesome guy. He's been on the show before. Cam Moon's going to join us here momentarily. He's going to be popping up on that screen if you're watching that stream. Kellin's we're going to run down the CHL versus the United States Development Program team tonight in junior hockey. First time this has ever been done. If you, and I know a few of you out there, I know some of the text messages I've got, you are going to be watching this game. Very intrigued how the CHL top draftable prospects that were picked by NHL general managers to play on this team fare against the United States Development Program. They're playing 2 games. The first one goes tonight. Hour 3. Oh, sorry. Also in hour 2, Benny Walchuk, if you're listening, sorry. We have the SJHL report. There's a massive SJHL game going on tonight in Weyburn. Yorkton and Weyburn. If you're in that area tonight, that barn should be hopping. The Red Wings are hosting Yorkton. Benny Walchuk's going to join us, and we're going to have our SJHL report for Southie Mainline Chrysler, the new king of trucks in Southeast Saskatchewan. Hour 3, Glen Suitor. So we're going to talk VA with Glen. But holy smokes, it was on this day in 1989. I was born. Curtis definitely wasn't. Colson was not. Alan, were you born in 89? No. Kellin, were you? Kellin was born in 89. It was the kick. I'm just shocked how late in November that Grey Cup game was. Like, it's November 26th. I had no idea. Glen Suitor held the ball. Dave Ridgway kicked it through. Riders defeat the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the Grey Cup. We're going to relive that with Glen Suitor. So, like I said, awesome show, 3 hours. We're in the studio tonight. And bullfighting tonight. We don't have any tickets to give away. Are you going to that?
I was talking about it with Joel Pickering on the drive over, just trying to find out, what he was thinking with the professional bullfighting, but I might make an appearance.
Yeah.
I also could lay in the fetal position in front of a fireplace after, in the busy hockey season, but a night off. But no, I think I might make an appearance there.
The one thing about this, do we have this, if people watching the stream, and I know we've played this a few times, here it is, coming up momentarily. If it's bullfighting, it's not bull riding, it's these guys are hopping over the bulls, they are teasing them, they're running for their lives. Europe, North America, and it all goes down at 7 o'clock tonight. The only reason, well, there's 2 reasons why I want to go. My wife is all of a sudden biggest fan of this. She was watching the stream last week when we were talking about it. She's like, we have to go. And I'm like, okay, well, we got to go. Secondly, this is something that you can't see every day, every week, every month here. This comes around once a year. So although it's a little chilly, dress warm, head to the Brandt Center, and watch the professional bull fighting, 7 p.m. tonight. Like I said, the big news of the day that we're going to get to as we move along here, Vernon Adams traded to the Calgary Stampeders in exchange. Okay, so he is traded. The Stamps receive BC's 4th round selection, which is 32nd overall in this year's CFL draft, and the Lions' 3rd round pick in 2026. In exchange, Calgary sends its 2nd and 4th round picks in 2025 and 2nd round pick in 2026 to BC. So there are a couple of picks moving each way, and then VA's ending up in Calgary. I wasn't sure where he was going to end up. Arash did call it. Calgary did seem like a logical place, but it's done now. The curious thing that I'm curious about this is how many suitors were involved? Was it just Calgary? And I don't know if we'll ever know.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I was going to say anecdotally, was Glen Suitor involved among the suitors that were interested? No, it was interesting to look at earlier this afternoon when I caught it, because it's essentially VA for a second. And then the picks are like 3-4 pick slides twice, probably one going each direction. So it'll be interesting to have that conversation with Arash and with Glen in terms of whether or not this is like sort of a traditional return in the league. You know, we look at different leagues and sometimes you're surprised or caught off guard. And obviously my background being in junior hockey, you know, everybody's always shocked by Ontario Hockey League trades where they're not allowed to trade 1st round picks. And because of that, sometimes big name players go for 7, 8, 9 picks. And it seems like a substantial haul. And the WHL started to come that direction over the last couple of years. There was a really big deal last year. I can't remember who got moved, or 2 years ago, maybe in the Bedard sweepstakes when he didn't move. There were some big name guys.
Oh, is that the Zellweger?
Zellweger, yeah, where there was like 1 million players and stuff.
Huge
and we started
deal.
to come that direction. So the CFL, you know, I respectfully don't have a lot of knowledge on the history of trades in that league, but I'll be curious to ask those guys who are a bit more knowledgeable on, you know, whether this catches them off guard or whether, you know, in the same way that, you know, NFL guys get traded for like a 5th and they're top end players. So, a great call by Arash on saying that VA was headed to Calgary. It will be interesting to see if either of them has any insight on anyone else who was in the mix as we move forward.
For the record, the Zellweger trade was for Zellweger and Ryan Hofer. And then he was for 4 players, 4 1st round picks, 2 2nd rounds, a 3rd, a 4th, and a 5th, and a 6th.
Yeah, not lost in that is that Ryan Hofer, I think, had 40 goals the year before.
Yeah.
As well. So he was not a throw-in by any stretch, but yes, I agree.
And I just want to know if Arash, you know, he's kind of on the beat. Maybe he's got a little bit inside trading. Was there anybody else involved? And then, and I know this came through on the social or the text line where people's like, did they give up too much? Again, I'm no expert in CFL trades as well. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. The more thing for me is, was there anybody else involved? Or was it just, hey, they made it sound like there was, which would be great. As a guy that's in sales too, perfect. Right on, you make it sound like 2 people are involved in this sweepstakes, and really it was just you. There's no one else was even calling you. You go through the phone log. All we got was a call from Calgary. And then I want to get into, is VA good? Question. I don't know. Is he good? I ran his, if we're going on passer rating, and I know a lot of people don't like going passer ratings, but it's a stat that we have. And I did a deep dive on I had no idea how they accumulate or come up with passer ratings. It's quite the little science there for all you numbers guys out there. VA's passer rating, all-time CFL. So below 90, you kind of stink. Above 90, okay. Above a Hyundai is good. Above 100 is good. Want to go around? Anybody? I think you guys might know. Guess what VA's passer rating is CFL career? 100 above 100 is really good. Below 90, not so much.
As a disciple of Brantford, Ontario, I'm going to go dead on 99.
You were that close, weren't you, Alan? Didn't you missed it? It's 98.8.
Ooh. But rounds up to Gretzky.
But I have some other ones that are super surprising that you're going to really going to scratch your head on. I'll give you one right. Guess what Darian Durant's was career CFL?
103.
Colson, followed by Allen.
86.
89.
88.9 career. I don't know who was closer there between you two. But yeah, we're gonna talk about this VA trade. I'm really curious. Is he good? Like, did they just buy the slap chop? Because it was like the hot thing on TV. And it's like, I need a slap chop. And then you use it once and it's like, that thing sucked.
The other interesting thing, we talk about it being a second round pick in 2025, but it's actually the 9th overall pick, which is actually the equivalent of a first round. Because Edmonton doesn't have a first round pick this year. They used it in a supplementary draft last year on Zach Mathis. So it's the first pick of the second round, which is the equivalent of a first round pick. So that was my research since the trade was made.
Deep dive on the CFL draft. We're going to send you to the draft. Kellen's going, where is it?
On Zoom.
Let's go out on the Western Pizza guest hotline. He's waiting there, and we can't keep this guy waiting. Voice of the Edmonton Oilers. We're shifting to hockey. Western Pizza. Hey, if you're looking for a stocking stuffer or that $25 gift exchange at your office, get a Western Pizza gift card. Just be smart. You'll look smart. And then if you need any catering done around the holiday season, call your local Western Pizza. Cam Moon. It's been about a month and a bit since he's joined us, but I looked at the Oilers schedule and I'm like, wow, they got the nice break here. He's probably not doing much. And then I was like, well, maybe he's going to join me like from a hot holiday somewhere, but nope. I think he's still in Edmonton, Alberta. Cam, we are going to bring you in here momentarily. First off, how up to date are you on the CFL draft for this year? Do you know who's got picks and
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I will have a passing interest, of course. I will pay attention to it. But am I dialed in on who's got what picks and what picks have moved for what? No, I do not.
But, kind of exciting news as far as CFL in Edmonton, right? With the Eskimos?
Yeah,
Elks,
it's been...
Elks, sorry.
Hey, it can happen to anyone. When you bring in Ed Hervey as GM and Chris Morris as president, a couple of guys that played here in Edmonton with what was then the Eskimos, and that has garnered some interest in town, which is good. And you see what happens with the head coach, although it seems to be leaning one way by the looks of things, and we'll see how that all plays out. But some interesting news, good news. I think good news anyway. The Chris Morris press conference, I was ready to go run through a wall for the guy when he was done. I thought it was really well done. And same thing with Ed Hervey. He was like incredibly honest, and he called his shots as he saw it, which is, as I understand, the way he is. So I'm looking forward to the CFL season. I'm always looking forward to the CFL season.
Run through a wall, very similar to when probably Terry Ruskowski used to give you those pep talks with the boys.
Yeah, Mooner, if you stand there long enough, one might hit you. Something like that.
Going back to his Saskatoon Blades days. But talking about trades, and Kellin is like up to date, worked for the Regina Pats, worked down in the OHL. Like when you go back to because you played 88, 89, and then through 90, 91. Like trades back then in the Western League, Cam, right? Like they weren't massive trades. Like I remember the Mike Greenlay. I remember the Mike Greenlay coming to Saskatoon. I don't even know how that happened, but there wasn't like these big trades.
Yeah. And there was no draft. So there was no draft picks to trade. I mean, the draft didn't come in till 90, and then it was only a couple of rounds, and it expanded out of there. Before it was just a 50-man list. So now you were trading guys off your list that weren't playing for you yet. If you were looking, for futures in a deal like that, where you're trading an older player to a contending team, and then it would be younger players off of that list coming back the other way, because back then, no picks. Yeah, Mike Greenlay, he was at Lake Superior State NCAA, if I recall. Yeah, and they were able to get him out of there. But they were much different. Now, I heard you guys talking about that deal, the Zellweger deal. Wow, that's a lot of pieces.
But even your time, I forget how many years exactly that you were in Red Deer. Like, there wasn't anything really huge around there. Does one come to mind, like the biggest one that Red Deer was involved?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. To me, it would have been that the year the Red Deer won the Memorial Cup in 2001, the deal for Martin Erat from the Saskatoon Blades. And it's funny how that deal was, because back then the trading deadline was after January 10th. It's January 10th now, but after January 10th, you can't release anyone. So there was a lot of moving parts. Martin Erat was coming to Red Deer, but he was a European player. So another European player had to go back the other way because you couldn't release anyone. But the big player that Saskatoon wanted was Michael Garnett, the netminder.
West Side kid. So, love it.
Yes, it's right. So Garnett went that way. So a goalie had to come back the other way, which was Cam Ondrick. But he was a 20. So now a 20 had to go back the other way, which turned out to be Justin Wallen. So now you had there was a first round pick in there too, but there was a lot of moving parts because you had a European player moving, then a goalie, then a 20-year-old. So the deal, which started as basically two players, a Garnett and a pick for Erat, all of a sudden blossomed into this great big deal. It worked out good. Michael Garnett turned out to be a very good netminder for the Saskatoon Blades. Yeah. Martin Erat was outstanding for Red Deer in the playoffs, and they won a Memorial Cup. So win-win.
I forgot about that. Yeah, there was a lot of moving parts to that. And then Erat, when he was so good too, then he ended up having a really good NHL career. Let's move to the NHL. Sure. And your Edmonton Oilers. 6-2 win over the Rangers on Saturday. Is that a statement game at all, or is it too early? It's November. It was just a good hockey game by the Oilers.
Well, it was a good hockey game, and it might have been their best of the year. If not, it was in the top couple. But what has really been transpiring pretty much all season, with the exception of the 0-3 start, is we've seen a real good game, and we see a game not as good, and then we see a game real good, and then we see a game not as good. So I don't know yet. I'll tell you a little. I have a better idea after Friday in Utah if they're able to string a couple of these together, because the game before the Ranger game was not a good one against Minnesota, and then the team played really good the game before that in Ottawa. They were god awful in Montreal the game before that. So they're trying to get things rolling in the right direction, get some consistency. We will see if that Saturday night tilt is the start of it, because the atmosphere was great, the game was great, and the team played incredible.
In your expertise that you've seen over when a team, doesn't respond, doesn't bounce back, can't string them together, is that a coaching thing? Is it that the guys, they're just not right into it yet? Like, how do you put your finger on it? Or is it just one of those things?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of different things. The penalty kill had struggled really bad early on, and so did the power play. Yep. I think that lost them some games. Penalty kill's been better. The last 6 games, it has been actually really good. The power play is going to find its watermark here at some point, because it's just been too good for too long to not. 5-on-5, the team's actually played pretty well. If you look at chances generated versus chances against, if their shooting percentage was higher, their wins would be higher. And I don't know what to attribute that to, but the underlying numbers for what you want to put into that have been pretty good. So if that PK can continue to be the way it has the last 6 games, and that power play can get to the level that we kind of come to know and expect, I think the wins will string together. So I think it's been a lot of different things.
I think it was Knobloch announced Arvidsson and Hyman aren't making the trip, and we're 5 days out from that. Do we read into that at all? Are these injuries for Arvidsson and Hyman a little bit more, or what are you getting out there in Edmonton?
Yeah, in Arvidsson's case, for sure, it has lingered longer than anybody would have expected. But that's what it is. You deal with that, and same with for Zach. And we got drilled in back-to-back games, and took a couple of really hard hits, and hope to see those guys back sooner than later. But that's what it is. And Kasperi Kapanen has come in. He's got an opportunity, and Vasily Podkolzin, who has worked so incredibly hard and done a great job on the forecheck and turning pucks over and keeping plays alive in the opposition zone, finally scored on Saturday. He hadn't got a goal yet, but he had been playing really well. He gets opportunity here in the top 6, and I think he's making quite good on it. So it is a little opportunity for others. But great to see Darnell Nurse back. He missed some games, and you could feel the impact of him not in the lineup. I think he's played really well this year, and he came back and fit in seamlessly.
Isn't that weird, right? Because so many Oilers fans, it's like, we got to get rid of him, get rid of Nurse. I'm not an Oilers fan or whatever, and I'm like, oh, he's costing you a lot of money. But then he's out, and wow, do they miss him?
Exactly. And I think Darnell's played really well this year. But you're right. When he was out, you're like, oh, wow. Like, you take a top 4D out of there, and it makes a significant difference. And great to have him back. I thought the impact of having him back in the lineup Saturday was felt, and that's a good thing. It's good to have him back.
Mooner, Kellin here, and I'm going to get to Kasperi Kapanen in a minute. That was my original question, but as we were talking about Nurse, it's seen at every level of hockey, because as much as we were saying, Nurse is missed, somebody has to move from a 5-6 guy to a 3-4 guy, and you and I saw lots of junior hockey and lots of guys who are trying to play in a wrong role. And you're not that impressed with them, or you're super impressed with them, and then you try to bite off more, and they just don't have it there. So to that end, like you said, not to go deep down it, but for all those who don't feel that strongly about Darnell Nurse, he eats up a ton of minutes. Does he make mistakes? For sure he does, but he's hard to replace. I think back in my past, I came obviously from Montreal's farm team, and we had Brendan Gallagher his first year after he left Vancouver. He was playing in Hamilton in the American League, and they were expecting him to be a first liner, and there was a lot of disappointment. And then he makes the Canadiens after the lockout, right? And he's playing on a 3rd and 4th line, and everyone's like, how is this possible? He couldn't do anything in the American League. So we've touched on that. But with Kapanen, everything that you read, Knobloch talked about the fact that he was a player they were targeting in the past. How valuable is it for the Oilers to be able to claim a player like that who can step in and contribute without having to give up any assets?
Yeah, well, I think that's huge, and he's not a big ticket item, so as far as the cap goes, it's very workable. But to add a younger player with some speed, when you lose, a guy like Holloway, and then you traded a player away like McLeod, but of course that happened before the Holloway-Broberg offer sheets. I mean, so you don't foresee that happening, and then next thing you know, you've lost some speed up front in McLeod and Holloway. You bring in a guy like Kapanen, and he can fly. So I think that helps add some team speed, which is important. He gets an opportunity with a competitive club, wants to make good on that, after getting waived. So yeah, I think it's a win-win situation. He's definitely come in and thrown some life into the group with that, because he'll go out there and make some things happen. So yeah, I think it's a good move by the Oilers, and something that, and especially when you have a couple of injuries too up front, you got to do something. And I think the Oilers made a good move there.
Yeah. Sorry, just a quick follow-up there, just on sort of on the other side. Obviously, anytime a player's put on waivers, there's a reason that the previous team wasn't holding on to them. And Kapanen's sort of been a high-risk, high-reward player in his career. I don't know if anybody's touched on this before, but did you see, or did you have any discussion on the interaction with Ekholm in the first game? makes the risky play to McDavid, and Ekholm says, you know what, I'm not going to celebrate the goal. I'm going to pull you out of the pile and tell you what I think of the play.
Yeah, well, Matthias is a pretty smart customer, and he's an amazing D-man. And yeah, I mean, that's all, you know what it's like. It's all part of the learning process and coming to a new team. There's that. I mean, it's and not everything's going to, run perfectly. And there's an adjustment to be had too. So yeah, I think, in that case, you've got a veteran player just making sure that things are going in the right direction. Everybody's playing the right way.
We touched on Podkolzin, and I think I saw something on social media. He was out early and he was putting in the work and all that. But your time with the Oilers, him aside, who's like out there early guy at practice all the time, or putting the extra work in guy from the Oilers, your years so far with them, Mooner?
Darnell Nurse. Darnell Nurse works so hard. If there's an optional skate, it's never optional for him. He's always on the ice. He's on the ice so much. And it also starts at the top, because Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, they work hard in practice. Like, they do set the tone. And they're guys that the level at practice is incredibly high because it starts with them, but Darnell's part of that too. But yeah, Darnell's a guy that's out there early quite often, out there late, out there even when he doesn't have to be. He puts in a ton of work.
Let's give people a look kind of behind the curtain. This is the stuff that always fascinates me about the NHL. Like, you guys played Saturday, now you don't play again till Friday, right? So this is a stretch of nothing or no games, for instance. Like, how would this week go for the team? Did they have a couple days off, a day off here and there? How would it go?
The Sunday was off. I did go to the Oil Kings teddy bear toss game, which was awesome. There was like 17,000 people there. It was great. They practiced yesterday, practiced today. They're going to have tomorrow off, and then it'll be a skate and fly situation on Thursday to go to Utah for the first time.
You haven't been there yet?
No.
Eric Francis.
I've never been to Utah in my life. I don't even know what to expect. I have no idea.
Eric Francis, who comes on the program, said that actually the barn's pretty cool, right? And he was just blown away that they're not building a new one. Like, they're just going to retrofit that one as they go.
Oh.
And so next time we have you on, we're going to have to talk about what you thought of that. Let's just talk NHL stuff for a bit here. For you, what's been the biggest surprise so far league-wide this year?
Wow. Winnipeg, I knew Winnipeg was good. Like, you see them last year, like they're a top, 50-plus win team that struggled in the first round of the playoffs. I didn't realize they'd come out of the gate that hot.
They had 3 of their worst games of the year in that first round.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. But when they came into Edmonton and they filled the Oilers in 6-0, you're like, oh, wow, maybe the Oilers just had a really bad first night. No, then they start doing it to everybody. So you're like, I was not expecting them to be that good out of the gate, but credit to them. It's a good lineup. One of the best netminders in the league. I've watched them plenty this season because I think they're a fun team to watch. So I think that might be maybe the biggest surprise. I knew they'd be good, but I didn't think they'd be like that ridiculously good.
What do you think? And I love it. It's just like this, I don't know, was it the third time Boston's done this? Where they get rid of a coach and then he's picked up like days later. I don't know what kind of message that is. It seems a little bit suspect. Like, hey, Boston, are you guys making the right moves on this?
Well, we'll find out, I guess, on how it goes in St. Louis. I felt for Drew Bannister. Oh, yeah, that's just... And I mean, they were pretty upfront that when a guy like that became available, that they wanted to bring him in. So it's a tough business. That coaching gig, I don't know who does that. I would want to be a professional hockey coach. Oh, it's cutthroat. Like, it's crazy.
It's I totally forgot Montgomery was like a Blue back in the day. Like, I forgot he had ties to St. Louis and that. So yeah, no, it was just a real head scratcher again. Kay, put you on the spot here a bit. And as we move along, it's kind of a hot button topic. A lot of people are talking about, as a former goalie, who do you see as Canada's goalies here at this Four Nations shindig?
It changes every week.
It doesn't it?
Like who I think it's going to be changes every week. Like I don't know. And that's not good. That's not good at all. Like going into the year, I would have leaned towards, Jordan Binnington, sure. But I don't know, maybe Logan Thompson. I mean, he's played well. I think, from what I understand. I mean, he's got to be somewhat in the mix. And Aiden Hill's had his ups and downs. Stuart Skinner's had his ups and downs. Like, you wouldn't just pin it right on any of them. But are they in the conversation? Yeah, they are. Same with Binnington. But nobody's just gone out and grabbed it. Like,
there's never been a time, junior or when they send, any to Olympics, where it's ever been this up in the air. It's like, no idea. Okay, we'll regroup on that one maybe in December. What's your take as a guy who did the Junior A to Western Hockey League thing? And then now what's your take on these players, Western Hockey League players, allowed to go NCAA after?
I think it's, for the players, this is amazing. It gives them more options, more school options. And even if you go to the Western League and you play and maybe you don't get an NCAA scholarship or you don't get one that is to your liking, you can still go play U Sport, which is awesome hockey. I went and watched the Bears play on Friday night at Clare Drake against the University of Saskatchewan, and it was absolutely packed in there. And the hockey is very, very good. But it just gives them more options. I don't know. We'll see what happens. And when it first gets put into place, there might be a bunch of movement, and then it's going to find its level. And I think at the end of the day, it's good for the players. I think the Western Hockey League is going to be absolutely fine. There might be a player or two that leaves early, but for the most part, I don't think you're going to see them leave until their 20-year-old year. Just my guess anyway. But it's going to be a little tough on Junior A. But and it'll be tough on U Sport, I think,
exactly.
off the bat. But then it'll be okay a few years down the road. But great for the players. Yeah,
and then I think a lot of changes where we see things right now and then where we see things in 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road is going to be totally different. Okay, then last one, I know we're up against the clock here. You talked about coaching and how it's crazy. Our buddy, Dave Struch, coaches in Red Deer. You were there. Are you keeping tabs on him pretty closely, and you keep tabs on the Rebels?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the Western League in general, because I love the league and I love junior hockey. So I try to go to as many Oil King games as I can. And as many Bears games, because it's all Western League grads. And I felt for Struchy the other night. They lost 5-0. They might have had 4 chances to score, and I could see it wearing on them a bit down there. So I went and saw the staff before the game. I didn't go after. I just said no. They're going to be fine without me down there. I can read the room. I was able to read the room.
Exactly. Enjoy your couple of days here before you head off to Utah. Let's regroup in December. It's always a pleasure, Mooner.
Okay. Yeah, we got a couple of days in Vegas on this trip, so we'll need a debriefing after.
Jealous right here. Hey, you got to get Twitter. You still maybe do that in Vegas.
Oh no, I don't. That's the last thing I need.
Come on.
I'd put that in the mud within a week. There's no chance.
December, we'll chat. Travel safe, bud. See ya.
Okay, I'll see you.
Take care, Moon.
Cam Moon, voice of the Edmonton Oilers, joining us on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. Time for a quick break. We are streaming at sportscage.com and as always on 620 CKRM. Welcome back. The All-New SportsCage. Barney and Kellin here on this Tuesday for Sask Lotteries. Big news, CFL-wise today. It happened. Vernon Adams traded from the BC Lions to the Calgary Stampeders. Some picks going back and forth, but he's the main deal. We are going to talk to Arash Madani after 4 o'clock, get his take on it. Like we said earlier, he somewhat called it. He said he was going to end up in Calgary. It's funny that VA wanted to have a say when where he was going. And then the Lions came out and were like, yeah, no, we're going to just trade you wherever. And again, a lot with the, was there anybody else in play? Does Arash know? Did he hear? Maybe, was Edmonton in play? We know that the Riders, from what Jeremy O'Day said, that they did not kick any tires. They didn't go down that way, which I see. I think, there's a lot to be asked. Dave Dickinson in VA, though. I'm kind of curious now on that, how that relationship goes. The new coaching staff in Calgary. Who are they going to bring in? He's like a little bit. I know he's only played with technically, and I think too, he didn't play with Hamilton, but he was in Hamilton. He's like the Mike Sillinger a little bit of the CFL. He started in BC, didn't play. Then he went to Montreal, played. Sasky, of course, played. Hamilton never played. Montreal 2.0 again. BC, and now Calgary. So he's never played with Edmonton, Toronto, Ottawa, or Winnipeg. He's moved around quite a bit. There was a couple of one-year stints there. Again, don't know the guy at all. I'm very curious the next 12 months from now, after he gets a chance to play in Calgary, what are we going to see? Because I know he torched us in that game in BC earlier in the year. Looked good. Like I said, there was a couple of balls in that game, though, that were close. McGinnis was all over the field. But is VA good? I don't know.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Shink, and I've been doing some reading here on the CFL's website on the original post. They had the trade, and then 3 unreal stats by new Stampeders quarterback Vernon Adams Jr. And the one that I was most, impressed by, I guess, when you talk about Dave Dickinson being a quarterback himself in his day, 14.1 average depth of target passing. So they're saying that VA is the quarterback in the CFL who has the longest average depth of target. So his average pass of quarterbacks who made at least 100 attempts last year was 14.1 yards downfield. Chad Kelly was 12.5, Trey Ford 11.1, and then Bo Levi and Caleros were both 10.9. Trevor Harris wasn't listed there. And that he was on pace for MOP before getting hurt this year. He threw for 2,203 yards in the first 6 games, which is about 350 yards per game, which is pretty impressive, which would have worked out to a pace of just over 6,600 yards for the year. And then this top stat, I have no idea what it's out of, but his big time throw percentage was 9.1, with the next closest being Trey Ford 6.5. So it says Adams Jr. was second in total big time throws, 32, despite not throwing a single pass in 8 games. So I don't know what a big time throw is, how they rank that, but if you're looking for a quarterback to dish out big throw after big throw, Adams Jr. is your guy, according to the CFL.
Well, that's what I was going back through here, and then like passer rating. Like, are we, I don't know, is that the measuring stick? Do we hang our hat? Like you mentioned a number of things there. The deep ball thing, trying to kind of go through my head, and like quarterbacks either side of the border that would throw the ball deep a lot. Like obviously Tom Brady was not a deep. He was a dink and he was like a Trevor Harris. Read the defense. What are they giving you? Dink and dunk, dink and dunk. But then passer rating, and that's where I went down the rabbit hole of passer rating, and VA all-time CFL 98.8. 98.8.
It's funny you should mention Tom Brady. I found this last night for you. You know what happened 18 years ago?
18?
% conversions on the season. Brady 3rd down and 9 out of a shotgun. Has Brown to the left side slot. Maroney to the left of Brady in the backfield on 3rd and 9. Red snap to Tom, back to throw. The rush, he steps up into the pocket, starts to run with it. Avoids one man.
When he deked Urlacher.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
What a legendary middle linebacker.
What a move by Brady to get the first.
Yeah, like he didn't do that really against anybody. He was sneaky when he wanted to take off.
I knew you'd
old Tommy.
appreciate that.
He ran like he had a board up his butt. I loved it. He got the job done. What's his all-time passer rating?
I'll take a look here in a second, but I just was looking up some stats here. So in the NFL right now, Sam Darnold, in terms of quarterbacks who are starting in the NFL, has the longest yards before being caught.
Jefferson.
5.5 yards.
Oh, that's low.
Very low. That's the highest. The highest is Kyle Allen, who's thrown one pass this year that went 13 yards. But in terms of full-time quarterbacks, that's Sam Darnold's the guy.
Okay, we're gonna come back. We got more stats, and then I got this passer rating thing. We're gonna look up Tom Brady's. You're gonna be shocked on some of the passer ratings for CFL quarterbacks. Plus, we're gonna talk junior hockey. It is the All-New SportsCage streaming on YouTube at sportscage.com. Some postponement breaking news here. If you were going to that game that I hyped up between Yorkton and Weyburn tonight in the SJHL, postponed. Benny Walchuk texting in. He's going to join us at 4:40. Rink issues in Weyburn tonight at Crescent Point Place. Hopefully nothing major. I love that barn when the kids go and play there. So come watch the bullfighting. If you're going to that game in Weyburn now, make the trek up to Regina. You won't be disappointing. Bullfighting. Guys jumping over bulls. Okay, a couple more stats just because we're stat nerds today. Tom Brady, all-time 97.2, you said, eh? And 117 was his highest passer rating of all time. That's surprising, 97.2. Vernon Adams, who was just traded today, we're talking about, to the Calgary Stampeders, 98.8. It's starting to look a lot better than when I first looked this up, to be honest with you. Trey Ford. Does anyone want to have a stab at Trey Ford's CFL career passer rating? If VA's 98.8 around the horn, Kellin, Trey Ford, Edmonton Elks, possibly
68.
No,
71.
Allen,
78.
no. Surprisingly, it's much better than we think. It's 98.2, so very similar to VA. We'll have more passer rating stat nerd talk later.
Finishing up that, highest in NFL history.
Will I guess? Will I be able to guess it?
Yep.
How many years did he play?
He's active.
Oof.
Patrick Mahomes.
No. Jared Goff.
Nope. Green to green. Green and gold to green and white.
Aaron Rodgers?
Aaron Rodgers, 102.9. The top 6 quarterbacks in the history of QB rating are all active. Rodgers, Mahomes, Jackson, Burrow, Wilson, Watson, and 7th overall, Drew Brees, 98.7.
Jet fans are throwing things at the YouTube or the stream or whatever right now. Frustrated with him. Okay, junior hockey tonight. We have the CHL prospects against the United States development team. We're going to be talking about that as the show goes along here. We do have a Regina Pat in the CHL roster, right? And a Moose Jaw Warrior?
That's correct, yeah. Reese Hamilton, who was acquired last week in the Tanner Howe deal. Connor being his brother, who's still in PA.
Yeah. Shout out Whitewood.
Yeah, Whitewood, Saskatchewan. Lyndon Lekovic, who plays in Moose Jaw, is in the game. And Macklin, Saskatchewan product Cole Reshny of the Victoria Royals is also playing in the game. So
legit player. Reshny. Ooh.
Definitely. So yeah, it's a cool new format. Obviously, historically, they've had that CHL top prospects game that's been in January every year. I'm not sure if they're continuing with that. That's more of a CHL versus CHL game where they just sort of mix it up in terms of building rosters out. But this is a cool format that's more replacing what used to be the Canada-Russia series.
Yes.
So in my early years in the Western League, they had that Canada-Russia series where they would play 2 games in each league with an all-star team of players who were World Junior aged. So there was no 20s, but it was like the 19-year-olds and younger. Now they've created this this game that is all draft eligible players, as you noted earlier, as selected by NHL prospect or NHL scouts, and then the U.S. team. In looking at it, appears to be the U.S. National Development U18 team, and then there's two additional players that have been added who play in the USHL. Obviously, top-ranked players from the USHL.
We'll get into that more. Yeah, it's going to be a real interesting watch. Never been done before. Oh, man, I go back to that CHL versus Russia. Was that good hockey? I watched it once here. Was it fast? So that's an hour in the books. Arash Madani is going to join us here when we get back. We're going to talk about the VA trade, talk NFL, and a whole lot more. Speaking of stats, 99.7% of the time, I run late into news. So I'm right on track here. That is the All-New SportsCage, streaming at YouTube, sportscage.com, and as always on 620 CKRM. Back inside the Sports Cage, hour 2. Kellin, Barney, the C's, and the Sheriff. Alan in today. Yorkton Weyburn, SJHL, was supposed to go down tonight in Weyburn, postponed. If you're making your way there, like I said, U-turn, come watch the bullfighting, 7 p.m. at the Brandt Center. This is the bullfighting. This is when they jump over and around and tease the bulls and try not to die. Basically, that's 7 p.m. at the Brandt Center. WHL tonight, down the road in Moose Jaw, the 5-14-3-1 Moose Jaw Warriors host the Swift Current Broncos, who have an impressive 14-8-0-0 record. Okay, well, we had a little bit of a trade today in the CFL. Allegedly, this guy predicted it back in 2021.
The all-new Sports Cage and Coast to Coast with Arash Madani is brought to you by Smart Investing Solutions.
When are we going to the clip?
Be smart with your money. Call Brian Golly at Smart Investing Solutions, 546-2533.
Big prediction guy. Hey, Arash, it came up. Vernon Adams to the Calgary Stampeders. I know you are getting the boys to pull some clips here. When do you want to run this?
You tell me. I mean, because everybody reported it today like it was news. Barney, I keep telling you, man. I told you about Brent Monson. Told you about this. If only I could predict the winners and losers of football games.
Oh,
then we'd be on.
Let's go. Can you go to the clip? Can we play it?
Would not surprise me if Rick Campbell leaves BC and ends up being Ed Hervey's head coach with the Elks.
And brings VA?
Rick Campbell, son of Hugh, no. I believe it's going to be Trey Ford. I believe VA is going to go to Calgary. That's me reading the tea leaves there. I think.
So do you think Campbell is leaving, or is he getting the boot? Or does it matter?
Last week.
I think that what do they call it? A mutual parting of the ways, or something like that.
Yeah, that was last. DA's wearing a parka or a jacket, so that was close to the winter. Was that like last week?
That was last week. It was me and you and DA on Friday.
When did you hear about this? Like how? When did you think you knew about this?
That show was actually a week ago today. It was the first Tuesday after Grey Cup week that we did that one. Mm-hmm. I basically got the word. It was during the playoffs. At some point during the playoffs, the Rick Campbell Ed Hervey thing, I think, was basically done in October. Not that there's tampering that ever goes on in the CFL, or that anybody kind of breaks those kind of rules, and there's back channel conversations that go on. And the Vernon Adams thing was brewing for a while, and Jake Mayer, the Stampeders were done with, and here we are.
Tampering, fun, marketing, fun, lump it all into one. Who really cares at this point? Okay, how many? I said suitors, and we have Glen Suitor coming up later. How many? Was there another team involved here, or does BC jump the gun with Calgary? Was Calgary the only Was the 403 number the only one calling? Do you know anything there, or do you think, was there another team involved?
Well, I can't imagine there was, because if I'm the BC Lions, I would prefer to trade him to a team in the East. But I don't think the Riders were involved. The Blue Bombers certainly were not involved. I don't think Edmonton's been involved. They've got enough to do right now. So I think just by process of elimination, where is he going to land? He's not going to land in Toronto. He's not going to land in Montreal. Ottawa's moving forward with Drew Brown at quarterback. The only possibility could be Hamilton, but I think the Tiger Cats want to work something out with Bo. So I don't really know, Barney, where else he was going to go.
Was Kellin and I were going through this. We're not super savvy on the CFL trade and capital and what you're getting back and around. There's a couple picks here. Is this a fair deal? Who won this deal?
Nobody. I mean, look, Calgary won it because they're getting Vernon Adams. But like the issue with draft capital in the CFL is this. The 4th overall pick in the 2023 NFL draft is Marvin Harrison Jr. The 4th overall pick in the 2023 CFL draft just retired. So, look at what happened with the Riders a couple of years ago. Their first-round pick, his wife is a pharmacist. He's got a farm, and there's a lot more of an opportunity to make money elsewhere. So, I don't know what the value of a second-round pick in the CFL draft is. I don't think anybody does.
Well, when would Curtis Rourke be drafted to the CFL?
I would have to think that he's a first or second round pick, and he may slide. And the only reason why he'll slide is because if he ends up being like a 4th or a 5th round pick in the NFL, and I certainly believe he's going to get drafted in the NFL, that just means not only that the team that drafts him is going to probably hold on to him for a couple of years, but he'll kind of bounce around the NFL circuit and make a little more money as a number 3 somewhere, even on a practice roster somewhere for a little while. So it just may take a while for Curtis Rourke to end up here.
It would be funny, though, if he ends up in Calgary battling it out with VA. No?
Yeah.
Is that evil?
Yeah. No, I honestly, I don't think VA is going to be in Calgary by the time Curtis Rourke ends up in the CFL. I think Curtis Rourke is at least 5 years away from playing in Canada.
Okay. Yeah. Dave Dickinson and him. That going to work out well? Dave is a heck of a quarterback, right?
Dave was yeah. Things are not rosy in Calgary. And finally,
is it because of the mayor?
No, Kadeem Carey after the Grey Cup went off on Dickinson. We were all like in that confetti-covered field, and I'm talking to Arbuckle, and I turn around to talk to Dunk, and Justin's eyes are the size of baseballs. I'm like, what happened? He's like, Kadeem Carey just went off about Dave blames everybody but himself. Barney, I got to tell you, man, the Stampeders are nothing but a reputation team and have been for a long time now. Bo's out of there. Didn't work with Bo the last couple of years. It didn't work with Jake Mayer. When's the last time the Stampeders were a legitimate playoff threat?
That's what early in the show, I said, is VA good? Basically,
yeah.
is VA the slap chop? It's out there. Everybody wanted it, or the Floby, or the Jinsu knife for us that are more in the 80s. It's like we have to have him. We have to get him. Maybe he's not as good as we thought. And then Kellin went through the stats first 6 games this year. Yeah, and there's some impressive stats, but okay, let's call 2 of those preseason games. First 6 game guy isn't the guy you want. You want the guy with a little bit of substance at the end.
Well, I just don't know who that is anymore in this league period. I guess
Nick Arbuckle.
There you go. Yeah, Nick put together 2.5 solid quarters. God bless him. and it's going to probably make him the highest paid backup quarterback in the league this offseason. I mean, look, to me, Vernon Adams, if he doesn't get hurt, and if ands and buts were candies and nuts, what a Merry Christmas it would be. If Adams doesn't get hurt, he's the MOP this year. In a year where, who was going to win the MOP? Should have been Milligan. But I look at the starting quarterbacks in this league, and I'm saying to myself, okay, or let me put it this way. Of the available quarterbacks in this league, by far Vernon Adams is the best one. Among the starting quarterbacks in this league, Vernon Adams is right there with the best. And I think one of the issues with Adams, Barney, is that he's still, like we talk about the Stamps being a reputation team. A lot of people think about Vernon Adams from his time in Hamilton and Montreal and even early on in BC. It's a different person. It's a different quarterback. It's a different demeanor. And what the Stampeders need to do is upgrade their roster significantly. Like, this is the first step. But to think, I just hope they don't think Vernon Adams is the solution to their problems, because the Stampeders have a terrible roster and have continued to just slide for the last number of years.
What's up in Toronto? You making moves after winning the Grey Cup, and
yeah, I reported, like I told you back in October, that Brent Monson, when the Stampeders fired their defensive coordinator, that Monson was going to end up here. They had co-defensive coordinators this year, and my sense, Barney, all along with this has been that was just a placeholder move for Monson's contract to expire with the Stamps, and then he'd end up in Toronto. He's a Southern Ontario guy. He's a dude who came up with Ryan Dinwiddie when they were young pups on that Calgary staff under Dickinson when they were winning Grey Cups. He brings a real aggressive mindset in terms of what they want to do, and he's in lockstep with the head coach right now. And you bring in, and he's also Canadian, which kind of adds to it. So you just kind of effectively, you bring Monson in. That was that was the plan all along, and Dave just made it easier by getting rid of him.
Arash, Kellin here, and we were just sort of talking about the upcoming CFL draft, so I'm going to sort of talk about that quickly here. But the Vanier Cup went Saturday. Laval wins. What a disappointment for Regina Rams fans. We were right there. Right there to win on home turf, and obviously we'll host the Vanier Cup next year. But when we talked in advance of that, I think it was the Mitchell Bowl that was here. Yeah. We were talking about advancing to the Vanier Cup, where they were likely going to get Laurier, which played. Taylor Algesma was the quarterback. Is he returning for a fifth year? Is that why I'm not reading his name anywhere in terms of the 25 CFL draft?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know. I don't even know if you have to declare. I don't know what goes into that process, to be honest. Dunk reported on the pregame show that there's some NFL interest. 6'6" quarterback with some arm strength. But I got to tell you something, fellas. Like I think about Carleton University basketball that I think has won something like 14 national championships in the last 20, 21 years. And now Laval's won 12 Vaniers since 1999. 12 in 25 years. And I was a student at Bishop's in Lennoxville, Quebec, when they launched, and they
drinking what again?
Lucky Lager.
Oh,
yeah, Lucky Lager. Colson and Curtis's favorite.
Price point?
$8.99 for a 12 at the Esso. I come out of drinking all those Lucky Lagers, and the first year Laval went winless, and by their third year they won their first Vanier Cup. Okay, so their quarterback then was Matthew Bertrand. Bertrand's now the special teams coach. Their defensive coordinator then was Glenn Constantine. Constantine's the head coach. Their offensive line coach a million years ago was Carl Brennan. Brennan's the O-line coach. And their play caller, their offensive coordinator, was Justin Etier, who's still doing it. Like 25 years later, it's the same group that's still winning Vanier Cups. And the other guy I recognized on the sideline was Anthony Auclair, who 4 years ago was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning a Super Bowl, former Laval player. Now he's involved in the staff. Like, they keep that mafia together there, man. And all they really do is lift championships. It's amazing.
Somebody's got to bait them, though, to be like, just like when the Rams went to CIS, and I know it's a lot different, to be like, you guys got to go CFL. Like, enough with this. If you're the men that you say you are, you will put a professional team in something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but as you know, and I'll give Laval this: they were NIL before NIL.
Oh, why are they ever?
And if you're a player, I don't need the pay cut to go to the CFL. And if you're the coach, I'm not in a staff cap. And if you're the owner, you're saying to yourself, I run my own show here and no one tells me what to do. They got it pretty good over there in Quebec City, man.
Yeah, it's the best place, though. The instant rivalry, and I don't want to go down this again, but yeah, they're a wagon. There is no doubt about it. Okay, so what do we got? We got Josh Bell. He's been granted from the Riders about Ottawa's defensive coordinator. Richie Hall as well. I haven't heard anything on J.C. Sherritt, which I would tend to believe. I'm no newsbreaker like you are, but that would be a good Edmonton fit. Yep. It's that time of the year, right, where these coaches are getting interviewed.
Yeah, and the name that hasn't come up that I'm surprised is Mark Washington, formerly of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Wouldn't surprise me to see Mark Washington as the next defensive coordinator in Ottawa. Here's one thing that's interesting, Barney. And yeah, I see Sherritt going to Edmonton, joining Rick Campbell's staff, by the way. I expect Mark Killam, formerly Calgary's special teams coach, longtime special teams coach, to end up with Rick Campbell in Edmonton. They work together in the Stampeder staff. This is what's interesting. Somebody mentioned this to me, and I thought it was really, an intriguing point. When you think about the NFL draft, all these teams can interview prospects. They can bring them in for pre-draft visits. They can work them out. They can have them on the field. They can put them up on the whiteboard and check out their football IQ. And they're doing a lot of that knowing full well they're not going to draft that player because he's not going to drop to them. But they're doing it to kind of plant the seed in their own mind of, all right, who's this guy 3-4 years from now if he becomes a free agent, if he's on the trading block, if there's a situation where we can go acquire him? Is this somebody we want around here? And there are very few opportunities for coaches to be able to do that. And a lot of these conversations are, we may not know Josh Bell. We may not know J.C. Sherritt. Let's find out what they're about. It may not work for the 2024 offseason, but maybe down the road.
It's called the long play, right?
That's right. That's right.
Well, the draft thing, I've known hockey teams that have done that. It's like, yeah, probably not going to draft them, but let's send the scout and put in the work because, yeah, it's a bit of the long play. Okay, we're going to get into a debate now about the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes.
I just can't see it sustainable throughout the playoffs the way they're playing. Like, there's a point in that game I'm like, sit Derrick Henry down. This game is in the bag, and he is just getting you the 3-4 yard carries, which are important. But when a game's in the bag in Los Angeles...
Let me stop you there. The game's not in the bag.
Well, it's not the CFL. It pretty much was.
But hold on. As a card-carrying member of the Minnesota Vikings fan club here, we had the football with 6 minutes to go in the game, up 2 touchdowns, and the next thing I know, Caleb Williams has the ball in overtime nearing midfield.
Okay. The Ravens might be a smidge I don't want to use the word better. We're more confident in the Ravens holding that lead than the Minnesota Vikings. And then you have Lamar running the ball. And it's like, what are you guys doing? Like now I got to look at their schedule here and figure out, is there a load management scenario?
There is on the back half of the season, but at that point, you like don't forget they're 8-4 now. Like, they need some wins. But here's the thing: like, there's two facets to this. One, you're averaging 7 yards a carry. 7 yards a carry. Why are you going to get away from that? Two, because your guy's going to get hurt and not be able to play in January and beginning of February. I think. I hear you. But this is their DNA. And you think about why they lost the playoff game to Kansas City last year. It's because they got away, for those on the stream watch, they got away from this. They got away from running the football. And this now has to, and the way you set up that deep Rashard Bateman touchdown is by having Derrick Henry and Justice Hill do this. The other thing is, Barney, with 6 minutes to go in the game, up a couple of touchdowns, your opponent at that point is actually not LA. It's not the Chargers. It's the clock. So it just tick, 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 tick. And if you can wear down
I'm aware of all this. I just think that there's no need. Hey, Justice Hill, fill your boots. You're going to run it 20 times here in the next 4 minutes. Get Henry off the field and Lamar. And I'm no Ravens fan. I don't know, man.
I think if you're up 3 touchdowns, you get Lamar off the field. Look, here's what's like, what if the Chargers recover the onside kick in a 7-point game? There's a minute to go.
The whole problem is going back to what you were talking about. They've lost some games that they shouldn't have, and now they're in a predicament that they need wins. It's
Correct.
like you have no house money to play with. Like
Correct.
you got the Eagles. That's a major league matchup coming up here Sunday. Then you have the Giants. Sign Arbuckle for the game. You'll win that. Yeah. Steelers, tough one. Texans, they are Jekyll and Hyde. I have no idea what they're all about. And then you end it with the Browns, which are playing next year country, which is dangerous. So I don't know. There's you were mentioning this. Like I saw it on social media. There's a chance of a team with a losing record that could end up hosting a playoff game this year in the NFL.
Two. Look at the NFC South and the NFC West. The division leaders are 6-5 and 6-5 respectively. Now, division champs are going to host a playoff game. So you have a scenario in which, let's just say it's the Seahawks in the NFC West or Arizona. It doesn't matter who. Like, Green Bay is 8-3 and they're third in the NFC North. You're going to have a scenario, but, remember the Beastquake game? Remember Marshawn Lynch beating the Saints? It's the same kind of scenario. It's a weird one. It's a weird one when, these teams just beat up on each other in the division. Nobody's running away with it. Is it Arizona? Is it Seattle? Could the Rams? I'm not buying San Francisco. They feel like they're toast.
Oh, but have they gone south?
I mean, look, you start Brandon Allen at quarterback. Nick Bosa's on. Their entire front was different. Deebo Samuel looks like he's completely checked out. And Christian McCaffrey's a shell of what he used to be. And George Kittle's playing on one ankle. What could possibly go wrong?
I know actually quite a few 49er fans. And
yeah, sure.
I think it could be the end of the line.
And the question becomes, what do you do with Mr. Irrelevant? Do you pay Purdy? And if you do, he's not going to get max. Right now his shoulder's an issue, blah, blah, blah. What are you going to pay Purdy? I actually think that puts them in an advantageous position, because if you can get Brock at a $25 or $30 million cap hit rather than 50 or 55, you can actually build around that if Ricky Pearsall is going to be okay. But if he's not, then it's a different story.
Okay, I want to end it with this. 1989. Do you remember anything? I'm going to say you have been really young, but it was It was on this day in 1989.
Dave Ridgway.
Oh. Watch Glen Suitor's hold here. We're going to talk to him in about 40 minutes time. Like just textbook. I think he held a number of holding clinics around North America after this. Look at that's a sweater. We got to get that in the team room, team store. I mean, look at that turf. Oh, like the province. I mean, you're not from here, and you're not from here. You guys weren't born. I was 9 years old. There was people that messaged today. They were drinking green beer at parties. They were and you got to remember, this is 89. Nothing was accessible. It wasn't that easy to go watch anything. Like now you can hop on a plane, go watch a game in Vegas and be back the next day, or Phoenix or wherever.
What was that? That was the second championship in franchise history?
Yes.
The second Grey Cup? Yeah.
Yes. And you know the thing that I still remember being that young, how many, I was obviously in Saskatoon, still at mom and dad's because I was 9, is how many people took bus loads, went from Saski to Toronto. I don't even think they do that with prisoners. That is such a jaunt on a bus. And then don't forget you got to come back. Yeah, mind you won. The celebration would have been great. But yeah, they loaded up buses to head to the new Sky Dome, because that was the other thing too. It was like this.
It was a novelty.
1989.
What would be a great, and unfortunately, I'm sure there weren't a lot of camcorders on those buses, but the stories from the buses home, not on the way there. What? I mean, how long would that have been? 20-ish hours?
No, it's way more. You got to. I want to say you're, and someone can correct in the Capital Ford Lincoln text line. I want to say it's at least a 30-hour swing, man.
I don't want to produce your show
22
for
hours.
You. I don't want to produce your show for you, man, but I think it'd be awesome if you could get somebody on to tell a story or two from the bus home on anniversary day. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Is it that far, Coulson?
1 day, 22 hours. So 46.
No. I've done the drive from Regina to Toronto a lot of times, being from Brantford. And during COVID, when we couldn't do anything but drive.
Say, are you on the no-fly list? Why would you do that?
No, during COVID, we couldn't. And every time I've done it, it's been like 36 hours door-to-door with a little bit of sleep in Northern Ontario. And then obviously the last few years, we've been able to go through the U.S. again. But during COVID, couldn't cross the border. But yeah, it's the thing that people don't realize is like you've left Regina and you've driven for 8 hours and you've gone through Saskatchewan and through Manitoba and you're into Ontario and you still have probably 24 hours left to get to Southern Ontario. Like it is just, you go so far to get around the lakes. And I have to assume in 1989 with a bus load of fans, the type of people who would get on a bus to drive to Toronto, they probably weren't cutting through the United States in terms of the logistics of getting through the border.
No, that was pre-passport day. You could get in with our cartoon ID.
I don't discredit that, but I still think the types of people who probably were riding a bus to Toronto, they were probably going up over the lakes. And it's interesting, I just was reading about the game because right when the video went on and you said, oh, look at that turf, I was like, ooh, that's Sky Dome for sure. Mm-hmm. As somebody who grew up around there and it opened in 89. But I was reading that it was minus 10 when the team came back. And that was the year that almost bankrupted the Riders. Said they had projected an $85,000 profit because they had to go on the road for 3 road games. They lost $195,000 that year and took the debt of the team to $1.6 million at that time. So 1989, $1.6 million, that's like 10 today's dollars.
Something. Yeah, around there. Yeah, looking at this, I can't wait to talk to Glen Suitor about this, but so you going through the States, you got to go through Chicago, which could take half a day getting through there or around it still. So that, and then the other way, you got to go like Thunder Bay and then down. Oh man, the stories that they would have, Arash, like you said, the marriages that became of it, the marriages that left because of it. That's a lot of time on a bus.
It's a lot of time on a bus.
Yeah.
And yeah, adult diapers for everyone.
Oh. All right, buddy. Let's hey, when we talk to you on Thursday, we're going to be live at Agribition.
Oh, beauty.
It's going to be buzzing down there. So, okay, have a good couple days, and we'll chat with you on Thursday.
Sounds good. See you, boys.
Coast to Coast with the Arash Madani for Brian Gawley, Smart Investing Solutions. Brian Gawley's the kind of guy that I think would know what that drive's like. Seems like a kind of guy that likes to drive. And I think if I'm taking this drive, I'm going through the States. Like that Thunder Bay up around the lakes there. Is that a nice drive? What's the nicer drive if you did it in decent weather? You've done them both.
Oh, the nicer drive is going through Ontario for sure, because you're getting like 12 hours of coming around the lakes and you're just constantly looking out at beautiful scenery. But I wouldn't do it more than once, and I've done it a lot.
It is the All-New SportsCage. We're talking about the kick, Dave Ridgway, 1989. On this day in 1989. Unbelievable. That's how fast time goes. We'll be right back. We're watching on the stream, sportscage.com, and as always on 620 CKRM. Speaking of worth the drive every time, so the mainline Chrysler style, what's the longest trip drive you've ever been on, Ben? Like, on a bus, could be in your vehicle, could be with your parents.
I think it was. I would go watch my brother play Keystone Cup. We went from Saskatoon to Campbell River, BC. So that was a heck of a trip.
Yeah, that would that'd be about 26-ish hours. So not that far off. We were talking about in '89 when people drove to watch the Grey Cup in Toronto and the haul that would be. Okay, so what's the 411 here? On no game in Weyburn, we have Yorkton with 26 points going into Weyburn tonight, sitting with 27. Big clash. I was going to tune in and listen from the bullfighting. And now it's postponed. What happened at Crescent Point? Someone...
Yes. Yeah, we're sure on the way there. We're just pulling down the valley in Fort Capel, and the coach Emery Lawson got a call that there's an ammonia leak at the Crescent Plain Place in the Tom Zandy Sports Center, and the whole kit and caboodle there in Weyburn. So it's a dangerous thing to have, and it's better safe than sorry. So yeah, so that's going to be that building's going to be closed for the day, and we'll have to reschedule the game.
Do the coaches pick up a half sack at the Squire for the drive back to York? Stop at Dairy Queen at least for the boys?
Houston pizza, maybe.
That's a nice Houston pizza, by the way. Yeah, in Fort Capel. Like that was going to be a fantastic one today. What else is going on around the league? Melford's still number one, eh?
Melford is number one, playing some pretty consistent hockey and getting some very, very good goaltending. I know Christian Coombs is a returnee from last year. He's been very good. And then Madden Mulaku, who started the season with the Regina Pats, sent back to Melford, and he has a 7-0 record on the season. So I know they had the league title last year. Lost a lot of firepower up front, but playing a lot of defensive structure, very good back end, and playing some very good defensive hockey. That's helping their success. But they're on the road up in La Ronge against the Ice Wolves. They're playing some very, very good hockey as of late.
Yeah, that is going tonight, as well as Battleford in Nipawin, and Kindersley is in Notre Dame in a Nutrien Division battle. All right, it was our Southie Mainline Chrysler worth the drive game last week was the Highway 10 battle. How did that shake down?
Well, Friday night was a pretty wild one. I know Terriers didn't play for 13 days, so they played their first game in almost 2 weeks due to the cancellation the Tuesday before due to the weather. So they were a little bit rusty, but they found their groove, got up to a lead, and then Millionaires took a 6-4 lead in the early stages of the third period, and then they had a penalty. One of their guys, high stick, got a double minor, and then that same ensuing, 2 seconds later, the guy slashed the stick in half. So they actually got 2 penalties in one stoppage of play to add to their penalty they already had. So they had a 5-on-3 penalty kill. Yorkton was able to score on one of them, and then they scored with just over 2 minutes left, and then won in overtime to the Terriers. So that was on Friday. Then a big game Saturday. Millionaires rebounded very, very nicely with a 4-1 victory to snap their 7-game winless skid. So both teams get a point or get a win in that weekend sweep, but a big weekend for the Malville Millionaires, finally getting back on track and getting 3 to a possible 4 points.
All right, what's our game to watch this weekend? If I go through, I'm thinking Yorkton and Flin Flon. Are you making that trek?
No, not this week. I'm going to be up in Swan River this weekend for Friday night, Swan Valley at taking on Steinbach on Friday. But I'm going to go either that one, or I'm going to go Battleford's and Melfort on Friday at the Northern Lights Palace. So go down a little earlier, go for a swim there at the pool at the Northern Lights Palace, and then head over and walk across to watch the North Stars and Melfort. Battleford's playing some very good hockey, as we said last week. So I think that'd be worth the one as well. But yeah, so Yorkton and Flin Flon, these two teams met just over a month ago, and 2 very good tilts there at the Whitney Forum, and they're playing their good hockey. But Flin Flon has lost their best scorer, Carter Anderson. He's joining the Chilliwack Chiefs to the BCHL. He had 14 goals, so it's one of those guys that have made the trek from the SJHL going back to the BCHL. So we talk about that movement, and Flin Flon suffers a big loss here today.
Are you hearing more of that maybe coming down the pipe or the other way?
So Chilliwack, what I've been told, they lost 5 or 6 guys since the CHL agreement came in. So they lost a lot of their players. So they got to go find the players this way, and they're coming to the SJHL. They're coming to other leagues. There's rumors they're trying to grab a couple more guys from the MJHL and SJHL as well. So the BCHL is feeling the impact of the CHL, and they're trying to kind of maybe pluck some players from different leagues. So we'll see if that happens more so here down the stretch. I wouldn't be surprised to see it.
Okay, so we got Yorkton, Flin Flon, and then Battleford and Melfort. Those are the 2 games. The Melfort Leisure Pass, probably one of the best bargains in Saskatchewan that you're going to find if you're thinking about going for more than one.
Belford is a great rink. They just need a new clock. You can barely read it. I'm in the announcer's booth. You can barely read that clock. So City of Melfort, if you're listening here, you need to purchase a new clock.
Borgo Industries down the road in St. Brew.
Yeah.
Let's go. Branding for life. Get him a new clock. Okay, and then the Movember thing that you guys were doing, that's got to be wrapping up. Hey, let's be honest. And I know there's a lot of mustache jokes that go around. It suits you. If you're watching the stream right now, and I'm not even joking. I know I'm a bit of a smart aleck. That thing suits you.
Don't tell my girlfriend that. She can't wait till this Sunday when I have to shave it off, and I said I'm going to keep it for another couple more days, but we'll see how that goes here this weekend. But thanks. Yeah, Movember has been great. It's nice to see some of the stashes on the respective teams. It's always a great time of year, and it's a great initiative here with Movember and the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. They raised a ton of money. I go to their Facebook and their X pages, Instagram pages, and you can still have time to donate to Movember, and a great cause.
No, it's fantastic. You got to tell. Does she have a mother?
She does have a mother, yeah.
Yeah, and then your mom probably is a Tom Selleck fan somewhere along the way.
Exactly.
Maybe Jeff Kent. No,
exactly.
Yeah, you're to keep that thing. That's the thing that happens with Movember. I noticed there's a lot of guys my age, your age, a little bit younger, that they grow them from Movember, which is a great cause. Fantastic. Applaud all you guys for doing that. And then they especially playing hockey, they go, this thing looks good. I am going to keep this. Yeah, no, Benny, you did a heck of a job there. I love it. All right, let's recap. On Tuesday, we'll figure out how these games go down. And then, okay, so maybe one more thing. These postponements. So how is that going to throw a monkey wrench into everything? Because we got snow postponements. We got, right?
Yeah, see, it has been like even Yorkton is trying to figure things out. Yorkton and actually their Kinsman Arena is going to be closing here in the middle of December, so they're going to be down to one arena for a place of 15,000 people. So that's one of them to trying to fine tune and juggle their scheduling with all the teams they have. They have a AAA team, of course, all the AA teams too. So it's a lot of juggling. I know it's usually the home team has the first grabs because of their ice availability, but sometimes you say, hey, maybe this team has a back-to-back games. Maybe we'll play them in 3 games in 3 nights, maybe like that. So we'll see what happens here. It's going to be some very interesting, especially with Malville Weyburn last week was canceled, and now this Tuesday it's Yorkton Weyburn canceled, and those could be for divisional title games down the stretch. So we'll see.
That Kinsman Arena in Yorkton is all. You get 100 people in there, it feels like you're in the Coliseum.
Yeah, they got brand new ports coming now, brand new dressing room. Well, it's going to be look like a brand new arena.
All right, Benny, have a good night. You got the night off. Take it easy.
Thanks.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Right on. That is the SJHL report for Southie Mainline Chrysler. Worth the drive every time in Southie, Saskatchewan. The new king of trucks. Still this month, up to $20,000 off MSRP on the Ram 1500, Dodge Durango, Jeep Grand Cherokee. You can visit them at Southie Mainline Chrysler. Time for a quick break. You are watching the Sports Cage, streaming at sportscage.com. Welcome back. Curtis is saying he wants to talk more stats because we're such a stat program here. So
I can help you with some stats.
I know you've been rifling off stats all day. If you're just tuning in now, you missed an awesome program so far. Go back and listen to the Camu and Arash Madani, all that. Vernon Adams was traded today from the BC Lions to the Calgary Stampeders for a few picks going back and forth, but nonetheless, VA ends up in Calgary. What stat are we going with now?
I just was going to talk more CHL U.S. National Development Team.
Yeah, that's going on tonight. What time is puck drop in that?
7 p.m. Eastern, so 6 p.m. here in Saskatchewan. So you can go straight from the cage right on to the game.
This is the top CHL kids picked by Central Scouting to play the U.S. development team. This has never been done before. They're playing 2 games. The first one is tonight. What is the stat?
No, I just was going to say Craig Button from TSN also put out his top prospects list today, well timed. So we talked earlier about the 3 Saskatchewan-based guys, 2 of them. Reese Hamilton with the Regina Pats from Whitewood, Cole Reshny from Macklin, who plays in Victoria, and Lyndon Lakovic, who plays with the Moose Jaw Warriors. So all 3 of those playing in the game tonight, also appearing on the list. Reshny at 14, Lakovic at 25, and Reese Hamilton of Regina Pats ranked 50. The top ranked player on that, Porter Martone of the Brampton Battalion in the Ontario Hockey League. He'll be in the game tonight. 6'2 3/4, 208 pounds with 17 goals, 21 games this year.
Is Roger McQueen on that list? Because I know he's been injured all year.
He is the 7th ranked player who has 8 goals in 8 games this year. 6'5 1/4, 197 pounds.
Yeah, he's dealing with some back issues, but he came out of the gate hot. Now they're resting him. I think this is the smart move, and he would definitely be playing in this game if he was healthy. Very curious. Like, this is one of those things, right, where I feel like it could go... Are we going to go into a blowout situation here? Is it going to be tight? Is it going to be rough? Is it going to be really physical? Anytime I think Canada and the U.S. boogie down in hockey, there's going to be some sort of hostilities.
Yeah, I think it's hard to say. I think it should be a pretty competitive game when you look at the cross-section of the players who are on both teams who are part of this draft list. The interesting thing, that U.S. National Development U17 team, they play in the USHL on sort of a floating schedule. They're not really part of it, but they float in and out of playing in that league. So that's sort of what their competition level is. USHL teams obviously having some older players as well preparing for college. So I think it's going to be really interesting. The thing that I'm most intrigued by, like you talked about, is if we do have a bit of a runaway tonight either way, what does that mean tomorrow night when the series shifts to Oshawa and it's still the same players, right? It's the classic. I couldn't imagine playing the same team 2 games in a row on the same day, question mark? No.
I love it.
But
that's the kind of schedule we're here for.
Yeah.
Speaking, I know it's kind of a little dig there at our tournament in Winnipeg this weekend, which was a fantastic tournament. I don't even like Winnipeg. They put on a great... Here's you guys ever traveled to Winnipeg? You ever eat at the Salisbury House, which they used to be littered everywhere in Winnipeg? Now there's only a few. It's like a big Winnipeg thing. And I've never gone into one. It is like going back to Kresge's or Woolworths or any of those counter-style delis meets a country kitchen, meets a Waffle House in the States. It was fantastic. I was blown away. Shout out to Salisbury Houses in Manitoba. Yeah, it should be an interesting watch. Should be packed at Poncho's Pub and Grill in Whitewood to watch that one tonight. Reese Hamilton and the CHL prospects and Reshny going at it. 6 o'clock our time, you say it starts? Or you're going through the menu of Salisbury House? Oh, there's some stick to your rib style stuff on there. Big shooter. All right, another hour in the books. Okay, Glen Suitor held that kick in 1989 on this day in 1989. He's going to join us right after 5 o'clock. Plus, we're going to get his take on the big trade in the CFL and a whole lot more. It is the All-New SportsCage, streaming at sportscage.com. Around the area tonight, if you're looking for something to do, Moose Jaw hosting Swift Current, Western Hockey League action. Don't forget, Yorkton, Weyburn, they're supposed to go down in the SJHL. Postponed. Ammonia leak. Crescent Point. I think that's what Benny said, right? Ammonia leak. Everyone confirm? Okay. Kindersley's in Notre Dame in the Nutrien division. Battleford's up in Nipawin. And the number 1 ranked Melfort Mustangs are in LA to take on the Wolves. Bullfighting tonight at the Brandt Center. I know that's usually not on the sports docket, but this is the one time only tonight, 7 p.m., where they go at it with the Bulls. Just a man and a bull in a ring. Basically chases it around and tease them. Slap the bull, see if you can elude. Is that the right word? Survive? That's the right word. You don't want to die in there tonight. That's 7 o'clock. NHL tonight, Vancouver, Boston, Utah. Visiting the Montreal Canadiens last night. Winnipeg Jet fans, 4-1 over Mini. Couple of good teams going at it there. So that's your action. Don't forget, book your holiday party at the Canadian Brew House today. Your ultimate destination for events, parties, fundraisers, and more. 'Tis the season to celebrate. Book now in store or at thecanadianbrewhouse.com. The big news today was in the CFL. Vernon Adams traded. Let's talk to Glen about it.
The all-new Sports Cage with CFL and Saskatchewan Rough Rider legend Glen Suitor is brought to you by Quality Tire. With 9 locations across Saskatchewan, visit qualitytire.ca.
Glen Suitor. Well, you know what? Let's save the kick, the 1989, because I want to get into that, because I was all hyped up on that today until the trade went down. And today we find out where Vernon Adams Jr. is going to play tackle football next year. It's in Calgary. Was Calgary always the play? Were you slow playing us too? Did you know about this?
Well, oftentimes, Barney, if when we do our hits, if you read between the lines, you will know when I've been told that I'm not allowed to say anything. No, I'm not surprised at all. Not surprised at all with this.
I can't read between the lines when it comes to my wife and daughter, so I'm not reading between the lines with you either. I'm bad at that game.
I hear you. It gets you in trouble too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, so I'm not surprised about Calgary though, and I think even though the Lions weren't consulting with Vernon Adams on where he wanted to go in particular, I think it was well known that he did want to go to Calgary or that would have been his first choice anyway, because he doesn't want to go too far away from the West Coast. He's a Washington guy just down from Vancouver, so he's closer to home, more family and friends. He loves to bring in the receivers in the off season. Easier to do that from Calgary or Edmonton than it would have been from an Eastern team. So I think everybody involved here kind of got what they wanted. I mean, at the end of the day, the Lions are going in the direction of Nathan Rourke, and they've talked about that in the media over the last couple of days, how that we have to remember two things with Nathan. One is what he did in 22, and the other is what he's gone through in the last 8 months, and all the different rosters, all the different coordinators, all the different, 2 different leagues. There was a lot thrown at him. I'm not sure anyone would have fared much any better than he did. When his first game with the day practice was Winnipeg, and again, he has to go out and prove it, but that sort of sealed the deal for Vernon Adams, and now, we knew that he was going to be moved. There's no question. In fact, they announced it. Now, this matchup is an interesting one. Dave Dickinson, when you think of personality, you might think this could be oil and water a little bit. with a freewheeling Vernon Adams, and that's kind of how I describe him sometimes. Dave is much more structured from that quarterback position, but Bo Baldwin can be the mediator. He can be the guy in between them. Bo Baldwin was VA's college coach, so highly regards Vernon. In fact, I think I brought this up before, but I saw an article with Baldwin who said he had Matt Nichols, Michael Riley, Bo Levi Mitchell, and Vernon Adams. He coached all four of those guys. And he said the best one I had was Vernon Adams. And, and the one that he thought was most pro-ready. So, yeah, no, not surprised. I think, and, I was listening in earlier, and to your point, you guys discussed on draft picks that were part of this deal. Draft picks are gold if used properly. Now, that doesn't mean you're always going to get
in any sport.
Exactly. And in fact, if it's easy to cherry pick one or two guys, like, a first round pick in one league, a first round pick in this league, and one guy, I was listening to the discussion. It's an interesting one because it happens all the time. People say that all the time. Well, there's so much of a gamble in the CFL draft. Not necessarily. If you're drafting, the top athletes. I mean, the last couple of years, Sam Emelis was a top draft pick, first round draft pick. Keon Schaefer-Baker was a draft pick. Those are guys that can be lifers, that can be 1,000-yard, perennial 1,000-yard, Ray Elgard, Jeff Fairholm type guys. So that's how important those draft picks are in exchange for a starter like VA. They're crucial. Now, if you're comparing them to the NFL, yes, it's very different, but the NFL also protects the first 3 rounds, even if they're not better in training camp than players that walk on. I mean, how does that make any sense to anybody? So, and it happens constantly. So, yeah, there is always some, I won't say guesswork, but there's always a little bit of gamble here and there with it when it comes to picking the best player. I mean, Tom Brady was the 6th round draft pick. We've told that story many, many a times. How many quarterbacks were picked before Tom Brady was picked? It's crazy.
Was it 8?
How much of a crapshoot it can be. It was 4 or 5, I think.
I think it was more than that. No, I think it's quite a quick. Kellen's going to look it up here. I think we should know that as Patriot fans too, Kellin. But I'm throwing the stab in the dark 8. But was there no one else in play? Oh, Alan's saying 6 before Brady. Okay. Yeah. Was there do you think there was anyone else in play here? Especially because probably no one from the East, right? Because I understand that he wants to be in the West, but I don't know, unless how much do you want to play him again? Was Calgary the only team in play here, do you think, Glenn?
I don't think he was the only team that they probably talked to. I would suggest that Hamilton probably kicked the tires.
Yeah.
Ottawa was probably interested to hear, what it might cost. But, we talked last week about giving up the fact that they're going to trade him, like just eliminating all of the, the speculation. And, is that lose? Do you lose some of your edge in negotiations there? And I said no at that time because everybody knew that they were going to trade Vernon Adams, and it depends on how many teams are really willing to go all out to get him, and that could be 2 or 3 draft picks. 2 or 3 draft picks is big. I mean, you could really build your Canadian roster if you get lucky in some of those drafts. So I'm not suggesting that Hamilton or in Edmonton even talking to them would be curious as well. We're saying, hey, we're willing to do the same in the draft pick department to make this deal happen. Calgary would have been. So, I think to answer your question, Calgary was definitely the front runner and definitely the team that made the most sense for everybody involved. But there was probably 3 other teams, maybe 4, that were just saying, what would it cost? How much are we looking at? I mean, listen, I would have done it no matter what team I'm on. I would have made the call to BC, and I would have said, hey, what are you guys talking about? What are you thinking about?
For sure.
Why wouldn't you make that call to make sure you understand all the nuance of the deal?
It's like having an open house and saying, no, I only want one person to come through.
Yeah, exactly.
You never know, right? Like, it's, and then like you brought it up because the one thing, and I don't know the league inside and out like you do, but Dave Dickinson does seem more structured. And, that is the thing where I'm curious to see how this plays out, because when you look at the list, and he hasn't played on a lot of teams, but he started in BC, went to Montreal, went to Saskatchewan, went to Hamilton, never played, went to Montreal again, then BC, now Calgary. Like, the guy's been around, right? And we all think that Dickinson is probably on a short leash here, so it's going to be very interesting how that shakes down between those two.
It is, and I think with Dave pulling the trigger on this deal, that tells you a lot about how he wants to work with Vernon Adams. But when you think about the teams that he's been on, you could take a look at this past season, and really it surmises maybe Vernon Adams' career in a lot of ways. A really hot start in those first 5 or 6 games. Yeah. Big numbers, slinging it just like a cowboy slinging it around the yard. And then he gets that Calgary game against one of the teams, let's be honest, one of the worst teams in the league at the time. He was playing against the Calgary Stampeders, and he just doesn't look like he's seeing the field at all. And I've said it many times, I am a big fan of Vernon Adams because of how he conducts himself as a leader. His skill level is excellent. But it's been a bit of a roller coaster in his career at times. It was this past season. And, that's one of the reasons that they're moving him. So, I know what you're saying, and I think it's legit. But you brought up your wife, Barney, and I'm going to bring her up again, because I'm sure because for me anyway, with my wife, I'm sure there's lots of opposites attract kind of thing going on. Like, she's really, really cool, and, we're not. You know what I mean? Like, there's, there's lots of opposite attract kind of things that happen in life where it really works when someone is completely different than the other person. And maybe Dave Dickinson and Vernon Adams can be that kind of combination.
Suits, Kellin here. While we don't know for sure that there was other teams sort of kicking the tires, do you think this is the first domino that falls in the quarterback room across the CFL, and by VA making the move over to Calgary, some of those other teams now are going to pivot to make other decisions on quarterbacks?
Yeah, I think a big one, like VA was a trade, so they could, discuss and talk once the season was over, and that didn't have to sort of wait till free agency. There's still, quarterbacks that are going to become free agents is a different piece, and Trey Ford comes to mind there, which and Trey Ford's story and how that unfolds in the next 2 meetings is going to be interesting when it comes to the hiring of a head coach in Edmonton, which that Ed Hervey would like to get to sooner rather than later. These things are happening very quickly. Staffs are being built. We're hearing rumors of Brent Monson going to the Argos. If that's true, and why would they be doing that with Kevin Iben and William Field being such a great combination in their defensive room last year? One of the reasons they won the Cup was because of how good their defense played. Why would they want to make that change? Unless they know that Kevin Iben might be one of the candidates that some of the other teams are wanting to talk to. So there's a lot of dominoes to fall, to your point. And, I think Trey Ford is a major one. Davis Alexander, but those are free agency deals too, and some teams might wait till February, see if what the price tag might be for some of these guys once they become free agents.
Is there any precedent in the CFL, like we see sometimes in leagues like the NHL, where we might see a trade of a player who's going to be a free agent for like a very deep draft pick or something just to give some negotiating time? Have you ever seen that, or is there something we can expect to see with any of these guys?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you can do it. Like teams will make a trade to get that 2-month negotiation window open and say, if we can make a deal, the trade goes through. If we can't make a deal, it doesn't. I've even seen that happen. So, I think that's possible. And, but again, you go through the teams. The Edmonton Elks is an interesting one. That's a discussion. I mean, that's another whole topic when it brings in the head coaching candidates and Trey Ford's situation. Nathan Rourke's in Vancouver. Now VA's in Calgary. And, you go to Winnipeg, and if they make a change in Winnipeg, they're nuts. If they take Zach Collaros because of a Grey Cup game and a wrecked finger and say, maybe we should move on, that would just be crazy. And I think Bo is going to be in Hamilton. You can go down the list. I mean, teams are pretty good with where they're at. Now, Davis Alexander is interesting with Cody Fajardo in Montreal. But, yeah, those type of trades can happen to get some negotiation time with the player. I'm not sure they'll happen here unless it's a David Alexander and Cody Fajardo situation, possibly there.
Okay, I want to save the coaching questions for Thursday, and I want to get. This is hard to believe that it was this long ago, and that you guys played the Grey Cup on November 26th.
Look at the old masks. Look at the.
Okay, what are you saying to him there? What did you say to him there?
We were telling little stories to each other throughout the process, and that shot caught the end of the little discussion, which we had all the time whenever it was a big kick. Dave wanted to talk about something other than the kick, other than the thing. And what you don't see too is that all of the offensive linemen wanted to be kicker coaches at that time and turn around and tell Dave in the huddle, you got to keep your head down and make sure you follow through. And I'm like, get up there, get away from my guy. And you can see the blocking was outstanding up front. I get nervous whenever I see a replay of that. I honestly do. And watching it right now, I feel like I'm starting to sweat.
It is like John Gregory. Like I said earlier, that's where they got to bring back that sweater as a retro sweater in the team store, because that thing is iconic. Because everybody remembers the kick, then they remember Gregory, right? Who was like everyone kind of seemed like everyone's dad.
Yeah, like I love it.
Who was the snapper?
Bob Pulley.
Pulley. Yeah. Because the thing that people don't remember, and you guys were, it was in the brand new Sky Dome. There was a lot of different things probably for a kicker to get, to get accustomed to, right? I don't know what the turf was like, but it was in an old stadium, the sight lines. It's like when you're golfing too, right? Like, okay, well, you got to take it over there. You got to, like, there was different things in the end zone. It was a brand new facility. So when you hold that ball, because I've always said it takes the snap, it takes the hold, then it takes the kick, like the Vinatieri kicks for the Patriots, all that, right? That year, did you ever muff any of those?
In my career as a holder, I dropped two. One slipped through my hands in Calgary, and I had to chase it, got just crushed by a big 240-pound guy who ran over me as we both went after the loose ball. So that was a good lesson to learn. Like, don't drop it because you get blown up. And the other one was in Saskatchewan when Ridgeway was going for a record in points in a single season. And this was I think it might have even been a convert. And if he makes this convert, he gets the record for points in a single season. And I dropped it. And And there was about, I don't know, 2.5 minutes left in the game. And I'm going, oh my God, I just cost my buddy a record in the league. And I just felt awful. And then we went out and they fumbled and we got a turnover, lined up and kicked a field goal with no time left. And he got the record anyway. And I just, to get that turnover was just like such a relief. So those were the two I dropped. But believe me, that one I've watched it over and over again. And that one in 89. And by the way, 23 years between the one before that, the championship in Saskatchewan before 89. 23 years had gone by. And 11 of those, we didn't even make the playoffs. Like, I wasn't there for all 11, but I got enough to know that wasn't fun. And so, just for perspective, that, if you're a young kid or a young family and your team gets to a championship, man, soak in every second as a fan. Enjoy it, love it, because it's not guaranteed, and it could be a long wait till the next one. 23 years between that one and 89, 66 and 89. And then from 89 to 07, what was that? Almost 20 years. That was 18 years. So, like, those whole families are grown and, born. Oh. Guys are born and become fans and leave to go on to college by that time.
Cities have come and gone. What are you going through there? Because there's a lot of pressure for Dave, and then you talked about dropping those two, and the key one were the point. Like, what's going through your mind there? Are you like, okay, hands can't be sweaty, or are you just so in the moment that you're just execute this?
Yeah, it happens because of repetition.
Yeah.
And those were hours and hours and hours spent, just Bob Poley, Dave Ridgway, and I, after practice, before practice, hours and many, many kicks, and just getting into an automatic mode. Now, it just turned out in that particular kick in 89, they called a timeout to try and ice Dave. I went to talk to John Gregory, talk to him. He wanted to do something we called, which was a snap down, which meant I would shout out a signal and the O-line would kind of lift up and then go down into a 3-point stance. And the idea there was that we draw them offside, and if we miss the kick, that we'd get another chance because they'd be offside. So he brought that up. He said, let's do that. And I said, no, he's going to make it. Let's just go kick it and make it. So I had a good discussion with the coach there. And, I'll give him a lot of credit for trusting me in that moment to, just put all our confidence in Dave and just say, he's not going to miss, coach. Like, he's not going to miss. Let's go. Win the game right here. So I had that on my mind. Then I ran out, and that's when all the O-line were coaching Dave up and saying, keep your head down and all this stuff. I think Poley was in the middle of that with his crooked finger going, you better do, like this kind of thing. And so I was backing them off. So by the time I kneeled down and talked to Dave and we had kind of settled in, keep in mind, this is only happening over a couple of minutes. I didn't really have a chance to be nervous. I have been really nervous every time I see it in replay since then. But I in the moment, it was the reps kicked in. It was the automatic sort of way that the three of us worked together. How good Bob Poley was at snapping the football. My God, he was so precise. And I've said this many times, and I know fans have heard it, but if we were in practice, he could change the position of the ball. We're 7 yards away, change the position of the ball and get the lace right where I wanted it every snap after that. So he'd say, where's the lace? I'd say 3 o'clock. He'd say, okay. He'd make an adjustment. And from then on, it was right at noon where I needed it. And so I didn't have to spin the ball. I mean, he was that precise. I've said it many times. He's probably going, yes, it was me. The poster should have said the snap, not the kick. He said that many times. But, I watch it and get nervous, Barney, and I looked and I caught the middle of the ball. Like on every hold, it happens so quickly. It happens within 2 seconds that the ball leaves Poley's hands and then is kicked. That happens within 2 seconds, like 1.7 seconds. And I catch the ball 99% of the time at the front tip, put it down with both hands, making sure that it hits the tee, because back then we had tees, and then moving my right hand out of the way just as he's kicking it. So there takes a ton of trust there. So Dave can go, he can start moving forward before I have even caught the football. He's probably stepping forward in his kicking motion. He has to trust that it's going to be where it's supposed to be. And so I'd catch the front of the ball. But if you really slow this down, and I caught the middle of it on this one, and that scares the you-know-what out of me, because like I think the reason I did is because I was looking at the goalposts as I was putting the ball down to see if we made the kick. And that is a huge faux pas for a holder. You have to get your head down and be looking at the ball. See how quickly I snapped my head up? That was too fast, because the ball could slide off the tee if you don't keep your eye on it all the time. So I've gone through that thing so many times thinking, had I dropped that one right there, how different would my life have been from that moment?
Oh, yeah. We wouldn't be doing this. We wouldn't be doing this.
Probably not doing this. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the left hash more comfortable for him? Was the right hash? Was the middle? Like where did he like to kick? Do you remember?
Dave was solid from anywhere.
Everywhere,
honestly. Yeah. And that's back when the hash marks were further apart too. And honestly, that was what a 42-yarder, I believe, 43-yarder, right? 42-yarder.
35 on the stat sheet.
35. Right. So we were kicking it from.
Yeah.
The ball was on the 35, so we were kicking it from the 42. So from there, with the pressure of the moment, and I've said this about kickers when I'm in the booth, the goalposts shrink. You know, when you're dealing with that pressure as a kicker, those goalposts start to come together, and they honestly feel like you're looking at a postage stamp. Now, a postage stamp for the young kids that weren't born in 1989, that's what we used to put on letters. You don't do that anymore. But think about
they're on strike anyway.
They're on strike. They're on strike anyway. But you know, I honestly, the pressure of the moment will cause those things to look like they're almost side by side, and that's what kickers deal with. Kickers don't deal with the physical challenges of the game, as you know, like a linebacker would or an old lineman, but they deal with the mental challenge, as much pressure as a quarterback when it comes to those huge kicks. Ask Brett Lawther about it one day when you have him on, because that pressure is unbelievable.
Okay, we got 30 seconds. The last thing. What time did you go to bed, or did you go to bed? And when was it? The next day? How was that party?
Well, that was November 26th, and I went to bed somewhere around Christmas Eve, I think.
Why wouldn't a guy?
Yeah. So somewhere around then, and man, were the fans. That was for the fans. That year, after 23 years of drought and not being back, and all the great support we had, we were so proud to bring it back to Taylor Field.
You weren't supposed to win in Edmonton. That's 9 years old. I remember more from the Edmonton game than the Grey Cup, because my dad was like die hard, and that you guys go in there and upset them. That was amazing. The boys are telling me we got a break. We got Thursday coming up. Glenn, thanks so much for reliving that. It was a blast, and we'll talk to you Thursday.
Yeah, and you are cool. Don't get me wrong. I was just messing with you.
Well, nah. Verdict's out. And it's at this point in my life, I don't care anyway. See you, buddy. We'll talk to him Thursday. It is press coverage with Glen Suitor for Quality Tire, 9 locations across Saskatchewan. We'll be right back. You're watching the Sports Cage, streaming at sportscage.com. Great chat with Glen Suitor about the 89 Grey Cup. There's a lot of pressure involved there. But I think it's one of those things where it's like you just get it done. And like you said, the repetition of it all. But yeah, that was a big one. And I was kind of going through the game stats and how that game played out. And I was like, that Tony Champion catch was unreal. Like broken ribs, he flies back, lands. So it's good little chat with Glen. Tonight, if you're just tuning in and you were going to go watch some SJHL puck down in Weyburn, that game has been postponed. Not because of the roads, because of an ammonia leak at the Crescent Point Place. So that game they're going to postpone and play another time. Kindersley is in Notre Dame. Battleford's in Nipawin, Melfort in L'Orange. Swift Current and Moose Jaw, the only Western Hockey League game tonight. Swift Current's 14-8 and 0 on the year. Moose Jaw 5-14-3 and 1. That one 7 p.m. puck drop in Moose Jaw. 7 p.m. the Bulls are released. I don't even know if that's a thing, but there's the bullfighting at the Brandt Center tonight, 7 p.m. This isn't bull riding. This is the bullfighting, one night only. 7 p.m. If you're looking to sprinkle and you're going to stay at home and watch some NHL action tonight, only 2 games on the schedule. Vancouver is underdog in Boston, and Utah, Montreal. Utah is the favorite there. That one in Montreal. Then at 6 p.m., Kellin, we've been talking about it. It is the United States Development Team program up against the CHL All-Stars. These are the draft eligible kids for this year. This team was picked by Central Scouting and by the experts there. So they're trying to get another look. And it's a very intriguing because this has never happened before. And we got 2 Saski boys and one with ties to the Moose Jaw Warriors playing.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny looking at the media package for the event. Interestingly enough, Regina Pat, defenseman Reese Hamilton, who, as we know, was just traded here last week in the Tanner Howe deal from the Calgary Hitmen. He lists his favorite teammate as Cole Reshney. Who obviously they must have played some minor hockey together.
Spring, Brick.
From Whitewood and Macklin. Some sort of spring hockey. But yeah, we have Reese Hamilton of the Regina Pats, Lyndon Lakovic of the Moose Jaw Warriors, and Cole Reshney from Macklin, as I noted, who plays with the Victoria Royals, who are participating in tonight's game, and then they'll go at it again tomorrow night. They'll shift from London over to Oshawa, so from the west to the east of the GTA for a second game.
We had a message in here. Don't forget about Dane Boyker, who's a Saskatchewan boy that is playing for the U.S. development team, but he's not playing in that. He's a year younger. He'll be playing in this next year for the U.S. development team, which is a whole other crazy story. How his parents, mom's from the States, dad is from where I want to not Nacum. I'm gonna hack this up. I'll look it up, but he plays next year. Yeah, so. How do you think? Because they like you said, they play like a floating schedule in the USHL. How do you think this is gonna go down?
It's hard to handicap the game because the US team, obviously, other than the 2 players we noted who are from the USHL, they play together regularly. They're practicing together. They probably have a little bit more chemistry.
Good point.
Arguably, we talked earlier in the show about if the game's a runaway tonight, but I feel almost better if it's a runaway for the US, that the CHL team has a better opportunity to gain a little bit of traction going into the second game in the series. But if it's a runaway for the CHL, it's hard to look at a future of this game in this series. They must think it's going to be competitive to set up an event of this nature. You wouldn't think the U.S. development team is going to step into the ring if they don't think they're going to be competitive.
Yeah, no, it'll be a good watch. Dane Boyker, born in Humboldt, but I think it's Watson I want to say Watson is where Dad was from. Dean, who was a really good hockey player in his own right, played in the Western Hockey League. Then U of S Huskies when they had a pretty good run there, and then Dane played with the Blazers last year. Totally tore up the Saskatchewan midget AAA league, and then this year it was kind of the, I guess a shock for some. Others knew it was coming. That with the dual citizenship, he's down playing in the with the U.S. development program, but again, not in this game. Draft eligible next year. Is it Watson? It's not Leroy.
It's Watson. It's confirmed on the interwebs.
Confirmed Watson.
And then I just was taking a look here. Dean was on the Regina Pats team the year after the Memorial Cup in Regina. He was on the 01-02 Regina Pats team.
Didn't he play Seattle or Everett, or where did he play in the States?
Try for a game, and then Portland for 4 years. Came to the Pats, played 4 years at the U of S with the Huskies, and then went overseas to play with the Essen Mosquitoes in Second League Bundesliga.
The Mosquitoes. They buzz. Host your team fundraiser at the Canadian Brewhouse for a chance to win $2,500. With tons of options to choose from, the Canadian Brewhouse can help you raise the funds for your crew. Details online at thecanadianbrewhouse.com. We'll take a quick break. You are watching the Sports Cage, streaming at sportscage.com. Thanks for the comments, especially out on YouTube land as well. What a wonderful trip down memory lane, says Trent. Take it you're talking about the 89 Grey Cup with Glen Suitor. That was great. And then Vernon Adams, if you're just tuning in, Sporting World, traded today from the BC Lions. He ends up with the Calgary Stampeders, which it sounds like everybody knew about. You can go back and listen to the Arash Madani portion of the program in podcast form, or you can watch it on YouTube. Arash, we did play the clip of when he called it so long ago, which was a week ago, as we found out. But when you guys started it, when you guys said he's kept receipts, I thought we were going back to like August or September. And then Kellin was like, I hosted with DA. That was last week.
Yeah, that one was a week ago. But there was another one we didn't play, but I'll get it to Arash, where he was talking about the one coach who's ended up with the Argos. Yeah.
Monson.
That's from Halloween, that one.
And then I didn't get into it, and we kind of did the stat nerd thing earlier in the show, which we went way too far into that. I just don't know if Vernon Adams is good. Like, I got to see a full year, him playing in the West. Joked about the slap chop. More of a Flex Seal. Is Flex Seal really work? Is it good? Is it a good product? Is Vernon Adams a good product? Everyone goes out and buys it. Curtis, you look like the kind of guy that would have used Flex Seal along the way, or the ShamWow.
Well, like, have you ever seen those like commercials?
Yeah, Phil.
He makes like a boat out of Flex Seal with a door.
Phil, exactly.
Yeah, if Vernon Adams is Flex Seal, Calgary's going to a Grey Cup, man. Let's go.
Can you make us one of those boats next summer, and we'll do like something on Wascana Lake?
Sounds like quite the summer project. Let's do it.
Get Flex Seal on as a partner, sponsor. We'll make it happen.
But even if Vernon Adams is good, are the Calgary Stampeders good? Like, is he enough? Like, we talked about it, and Arash mentioned it the most, sort of like the Calgary Stampeders we're still talking about because they were good like a half decade ago, like a half,
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Are they going to go heavy in the free agency market? Are they going to try and poach and steal and throw out some of that Calgary marketing money? Cowboys, I'm looking at you, casino and bar. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know how good Vernon Adams is. We went down the passer rating thing too, which I don't know is passer rating the stat we want to judge quarterbacks on, because Tom Brady is a career 97.2, which isn't sexy. Vernon Adams is 98.8. I know it's two different leagues, I'm aware. By the way, guess what Trevor Harris's is career? Vernon Adams is 98. We never played this game. 98.8. Trey Ford, 98.2. Guess what Trevor Harris's career passer rating is in the CFL? Colson, you're next. Kellin?
I was way off on the last one, so I'm going to go just right in the middle. 83.6.
Are you looking it up?
No, I'm just trying to cheat numbers. 87.
Alan, Sheriff?
I'm going to say 90.
Curtis, do you want to jive in? Do you even know what we're talking about? You're looking up Flex Seal, rest. Things to make with Flex Seal. Trevor Harris's career CFL passer rating, actually the highest on my board, 100.3. Zach Collaros is next at 100.3, and Darian Durant's 88.9. Anthony Calvillo, 95.5. Jeez, man, I hate reading stats. But anyway, I wanted to get that out there. Our clutch performer today for Nick Service in Emerald Park, your local Massey Ferguson, Rogator, Gleaner, and Fent dealer. Call 781-1077. Who did you want to give it to? You guys?
Saquon.
Okay, why?
I'm pretty sure he ran for 255 yards.
Yeah, they look good.
He single-handedly won my fantasy game, so there's our reason.
Saquon Barkley, our clutch performer. I'm actually going to give the clutch performer, maybe tomorrow I will, to these bullfighters tonight at the Brandt Center. I'm going to post some video on SportsCage socials on this thing. You're going to it?
I think I might stop in.
Jeez. I'm going to try and watch a bit of it and see what it's all about. Hopefully no one gets hurt. Let's be honest. That's crazy. Okay, Kellin, thanks so much. Been fun as always. Come to Agribition there the next 3 days. Stop by, visit, grab a microphone. The C's, thanks so much. Alan, thanks so much. We are at Agribition the next 3 days. Stop by, say hi. It is the all-new SportsCage. We streamed at sportscage.com. As always, on 620 CKRM. We'll talk to you in 21 hours.